Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. From the world of hip-hop comes one of the most classic albums of all time, featuring a rap icon whose creative rhymes and masterful storytelling captivated a fan base that supported him on his rise to the top of the music industry and beyond. We're talking about the Black Album. The Black Album is the 8th studio album by Jay-Z. It was released on Jay's Rockefeller Records on November 14, 2003. The Black Album was advertised as Jay-Z's last record, as the Brooklyn-born rapper was planning to retire from the music business after its completion. The album contains 14 tracks, each of which were handled by a different producer. The songs tell the story of Jay's life from a young age to his rise as a star in the rap game and include several references to his retirement. 3 singles from the Black Album supported the record's airplay upon its release: 99 Problems, Change Clothes, and Dirt Off Your Shoulder, with the latter two reaching the Billboard Top 10. Los Angeles-based music producer Danger Mouse took the a cappella version of the Black Album and mixed it with the Beatles' White Album, creating the Gray Album in late 2004. Though the album was greenlit by Jay as well as Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, record label EMI fought to prevent the Gray Album's release. Rap rock group Linkin Park collaborated with Jay-Z on the Collision Course album, which featured 3 remixed tracks from the Black Album, as well as songs from 3 of Jay's previous records. The Black Album received widespread acclaim from critics and fans alike upon its release. The record was a commercial hit, debuting at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200. It sold 463,000 copies in the first week and was Jay's top-selling album of the 2000s. It was certified triple platinum in 2005, and as of 2013, the album has sold more than 3.5 million copies in the United States alone. The Black Album remains one of the most popular rap albums of all time. It's considered by many to be one of Jay-Z's best records, and it continues to be appreciated by fans all over the world. And that's the lowdown on the Black Album. I think we're pretty fortunate to live in the time that we do in terms of modern music. I think we've been blessed with a number of great albums by great bands, great singers over the years, which is ironic when you think about it, because if you were a teenager in the 70s or a young man in the 70s, you're blessed with a lot of great 70s music as well, like Zeppelin and things like that, and just icons of the business, of the rock and roll business, and not just rock, but other forms of music as well, blues, soul, hip hop, really becoming relevant in the 80s on through today. But having grown up in the 80s, because I'm an 80s kid, I didn't gravitate toward a lot of 80s music, but I was sort of there. I don't want to say I was there when rap began, but I remember, Rapper's Delight, the first time I heard it on terrestrial radio. I was a kid. And I loved it. There was something about it that was different. It was catchy. It was, and I don't want this to become a diatribe on the history of rap or anything, but I'm just telling you, I was drawn to it as a kid. There was just something about it that was unique. At the time, it was very unique. I never heard anything like it in my life. And 80s rap I love. I was a big fan of 80s rap. Some of the 90s rap I wasn't crazy into. Later on to the DMX, and we've talked about DMX here on the show. One guy we've never really talked about too often much, except just in passing, is Jay-Z. No real reason for that, honestly. But when I start talking about iconic albums, big time stars, big time performers, you can't talk about any of those topics without mentioning Hova himself. I mean, we're talking about Jay-Z, of course, and he is um, an icon. I think that's the best word for him. He's a legend in the hip hop business and in music in general. He sold so many albums. And of course, the one we're focusing on in particular in this episode is the Black Album. There's been more than one album through the years called the Black Album. So if you mention the words the Black Album, depending on what kind of fan you're talking to, metal guys will think you're talking about Metallica. Maybe hip hop guys will think you're talking about Jay-Z, or it could be the other way around. You never can tell these days, right? Music has crossed over so many genres, which is a very good thing. I'll be honest with you, Phil. I've only just, it's so weird to say that in 2021, we're recording this, I've only just really gotten into Jay Z. Again, no real reason for it. I can't say that he was never somebody I would get into. It's just of all the stuff that I've listened to over the years, I've just never committed enough time to him. I've been very aware of his career and I knew of his hits. When 99 Problems came out, I was floored because I love Rick Rubin and I love the sound of that tune. And my God, to this day, I can crank that thing up. It's just a great tune. The Black Album really stands out. And I hate to put you on the spot right out the gate, but you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. Uh, what's your thoughts on the Black Album in terms of JC's most iconic works? Is it the top album for you? Is it in the top three? I mean, what? How do you judge this album overall?
It's definitely among his top 3 or 5 albums because in my mind, I think he has 4, maybe 5 classic albums. And I think Black Album is definitely one of them. I think he had to rank it up there around Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint. Like I said, Black Album's up there. It's interchangeable how you want to rank them. That depending on the day, but yeah,
Hmm.
I absolutely believe it's one of his best albums.
Is this maybe the best crossover album he's had so far, or would you even view it in those terms?
I'm not sure because you say crossover album. I feel like the album that really put him on the map is Hard Knock Life,
Hmm.
and I feel like that album still had his most crossover success. And it's weird because I don't even feel like Hard Knock Life is one of his better albums. It's a good album. It's a solid album, but like I feel like that was his best selling album before that. I think that album went 5 time platinum if I remember correctly.
Wow, I was never a fan of that tune. I'll be straight with you. I think because of the sample that it's the was it from Annie that it's played off of. I think
Yes.
I was never a fan of that film ever, and that song just gets under my skin. And so it's not fair to him to judge it on that. But oh, I can't stand that sample, man. It's not for me, you know.
Yeah, that song changed his career. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about what that song did for his career and what that song did for hip hop. I feel like that just changed the way to make a hit. Like there were so many people chasing that sound after that.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. It's weird because by the time we get to the Black Album, we're talking about 2003, and this was considered to be his retirement album. I mean, he hit the scene in 1995, and the Black Album was supposed to be the retirement album. He references retirement through this album. That well, um, I forget. I'm trying to think of the lyric. Soon you won't have me to push around. That's paraphrasing, but I'll be gone. And he speaks about being dead and gone a few different times in this album. So like it really kind of felt like the end. Um, Without going too much into weeds as to what happened next, why wasn't this the last album? You think?
Yeah, because it's rap. I mean, it's the same thing kind of with wrestling when everybody will come out. This is it. I'm done. I'm retiring. And you know that that's not quite it. Like there's always the door open for them to come back. And I believe at that time the Black Album was his 7th album,
Eighth.
8th. Okay,
Yeah. Wow.
that was his 8th album, and he still had a lot of time to go. And I know rap is kind of a young man's thing, and a
Hmm.
lot of guys don't think like I want to be an older guy rapping. Like there's nothing cool about being an older, mature guy rapping.
Yeah.
Um, and there wasn't a lane for that yet. There wasn't a lane for mature rap that not at least mature rap that sold well at the in the way that he's used to selling. So I think he looked at it as okay, this is my way of stepping away from that and kind of stepping into the corporate world and doing some business ventures and changing the way that I make my money. But at the same time, I still think he had more to say as an artist. And it's wild to think about it now that he's done 5 albums since then. He's done a collaboration album. with Kanye since then. He's done collaboration album with Beyonce since then. He's done a lot of projects since then. And at the time, like it really felt like, oh, this is it. I'm not doing it anymore.
I mean, with the exception of Snoop Dogg, I'm trying to sit here and think about what solo act has had as prolific a career as Jay Z. I mean, you could have said DMX at one point. Sadly, we lost DMX too soon. But who else besides Jay and Snoop, you think, in terms of hip hop, have had that kind of career?
I don't think anyone. I think Drake is getting close.
Hmm.
Um, Drake is getting close, but it's gonna be a few years before he gets that same level as Jay is. But when you look at like longevity and consistency, there are not a lot of people that are in that same category as Jay.
Yeah, it's funny we were talking about mature rap and like, getting older. I always in my head go back to John Lennon's interview when the Beatles first came to the States, and he was 19 maybe, and they were already 40 by the way they sounded. Because John's thing was, I don't want to be on stage when in my 40s singing "She Loves You," and I'm like, this guy already has foresight that he doesn't want to be doing this the rest of his life. He wants to mature and grow. So the idea of a mature rapper, I can totally see where that's sort of a like an like a road less traveled at one time. Like it's funny because if you're too young, then you can say, well, how can this guy be edgy? He's not even lived a life yet. What's he going to rap about? Going to high school? I mean, is that what we're doing? But if you're past a certain age, well, what's this guy going to rap about? Being a husband at home? He's not edgy anymore. So it's almost like you got to find that perfect window. I mean, this still Black Album is still in Jay Z's perfect window, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean he's well in his 30s at that point. I think he's 35, 34 at that
Mm-hmm.
point. Um, and like when you kick back to now, it's still like again, it's wild that he's put out so many albums since then, and he's 51.
Yeah.
Um, and so I can see it. I can see him going like, "What's the end to this? I've already made tons of money. I've said just about everything there is to say about selling drugs and everything else I've done in my past. I've 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 run its course with that well of material. So what else can I do? Um, so I in some ways got it at the time, but at the same time, I'm like, this is Jay. Like, what is rap without Jay?
Right.
You can't just leave.
And in typical old school 80s rap, which I often, maybe I'm off base in the way I hear the guy, but I often attribute him to that classic Run DMC, I'm the best MC in the game kind of thing, because that's the kind of flavor he gives off when I hear his stuff. Is that it's not a personal thing. It's not as personal as it got for a lot of these guys. It still felt like I'm the best there is. You can't touch me. No one sounds like I do. No one sells the records I do, which is awesome. It's the chest beating macho, I'm the best in the game kind of mentality, and I love that. And for me personally, that's when rap is at its best. Is when it's a competition. When it's you think that guy's good. Wait till you hear this. I'm so much better than him, and he gives off that vibe a lot in this album. Like I'm the best there is. I mean, he goes off on a rant after the music is stopped in one song, and he's going on and on about how many records he sold. No one appreciates him, and you know, maybe you'll appreciate me when I'm dead and I'm gone. Like I do this album really retirement angle aside, and like pro wrestling is an angle, right? But that stuff aside, this really sounds like a guy who's reflecting back, like you don't appreciate me anyway. So is this? You think this is more of a I'm wrapping it up, or is this I got to remind him of who I am?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think because a lot of we didn't get to see a lot of guys age. We got to see a lot of the
Good, yeah.
greats of rap die very young,
Hmm.
um, and they didn't get the prolific career that he got. We didn't get Big recording 8 albums. We didn't get Pac getting to this point in his career where he could decide to step away and go, I want to be an actor or have a life. And so I think in his mind, I think it's A, how much longer do I want to do this? And B, it's like, you guys don't know how good you have it with me as it is. So let me step away and give you guys time to miss me.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can't. How can you miss me if I'm always here? I mean, that's. I think there's something to be said for that. I love this album. I've listened to this album so much, regardless of this particular episode. I think this was my idea just to throw it out there because I've listened to it so much, it just inspired me to want to talk about it. But he broke a lot of records with this. I mean, it sold 463,000 copies in the first week. I mean, that's impressive. Uh, Top selling record of the 2000s, at least for him. Certified triple platinum. I mean, that's yikes. I don't know how you even. I mean, we talked on the DMX episode about the amount of success that guy had, and again, I go back to the word crossover because audiences of every color, gender are picking up this guy's stuff. And I don't feel I don't want to get into a huge compare contrast here because we did that some on the episode about X, but you don't hear a lot of the combative, aggressive tone that DMX had. That worked for him, and it's all good. But you don't really get that with Jay. His style is more laid back. It's a little smoother. It's not as in your face. I mean, that style. I mean, he honed that over the course of his career. Where do you think that difference comes from, say, between him and a guy like DMX?
Well, I just think they came from two very different walks of life. Um, I think Jay was always a guy that he came into the industry with money. Um, if he if he didn't rap, he had money. Um, and so that's kind of different than coming into the game very hungry and feeling like I have to succeed right away because I don't have anything else going. This is my livelihood. Um, so I feel like Jay always came in a rap as in like, you guys need to do this. I don't need to do this. And so it almost felt like somebody that's really good at something, but they see it as like a hobby. And then it
Hmm.
turned into something like, oh, yeah, this is my main source of income now. And even when you look at it in the sense that he was ready to retire, I feel like even in that sense, just looking at it from his frame of mind, like you guys need to rap to make money. I don't need to rap to make money. I mean, of course, his one of his famous lines is, "I don't get dropped. I drop the label."
Uh, I like that. Yeah. Um, Two things about that. One, he's got no pressure, really. I mean, the only pressure he has is the pressure he puts on himself. He doesn't really have it from like his situation doesn't dictate that this he goes for the throat because maybe he does like you say he doesn't really need to. Um, did that hurt his credibility at all with like the main like no I don't want to say mainstream that's the wrong word with the hardcore rap audience who expect their rappers to be a certain level of machismo, for lack of a better word. Did that ever hurt his credibility with that audience?
I don't think it did, because I think if you're expecting him to be like this hardcore killer guy, nobody really thinks that Jay is that.
Hmm.
I think you know that he has guys with him that will do that, but
Right.
he's not the type of guy that's going to get his hands dirty or throw his success away over something like that. And I think that's what makes him more respected in some ways. Like that, just that he's intelligent enough to go, like, I got a guy, but it won't be me.
Kind of like the kingpin, where like he's behind it, but he's not really the guy carrying out the dirty work. He's just more or less the guy overseeing the operation. I mean, it makes sense. Um,
Yeah, and I
but
mean, he always had credibility because again, he came in with money. It wasn't like anybody doubted his his background before he came to music because he already had the money to prove it.
and back to the DMX thing, and I think of him. I think of MCs that, in my head, I can pick them out of a lineup in terms of their sound. Like I know DMX. I know Chuck D. I know Method Man. It's just, I mean, ODB. For God's sake, how do you not know ODB? I mean, Jay Z stands out. To his credit, he's got a delivery, he's got a cadence. The way he puts rhymes together, puts his words together, man, he's such a good writer. Do you think he gets the credit he deserves? Is it there? Like, does he get respect for his writing? Is he sometimes underrated, or do you think it's about right?
I think among people that grew up listening to Jay, he's considered one of the best lyricists there is in hip hop. Um, it seems like he's more underrated among younger listeners who didn't grow up with like in the midst of his more dominant run. I think like some of the younger fans see him now and they see his success and they're just kind of like, oh well, this guy's just making safe music now, but it's like this isn't the Jay that fans grew up with. This isn't the Jay that you had to show and prove. He's already shown at this point. He's the multimillionaire. He doesn't have to really get out and make the same kind of music he used to.
Yeah, and God, multimillionaire at this point. This guy's got a lot of money. Founded Rockefeller Records in 1995. Um, Released his first studio album in '96, Reasonable Doubt, and then it was all uphill from there. Which is always a statement you like made about your career, kids. That's a good trajectory. So I'll be honest with you. I haven't only been sort of barely familiar with his entire catalog. So far, for me, the Black Album's my favorite album. There's just I think on the strength of nothing else, Nine on Problems is. I mean, Phil, I'm a rock guy. I mean, I've not made any secret about that. It doesn't have to be everything I listen to, but even a lot of the blues I listen to, I gravitate more toward Freddie King, who was more of a rock guitar blues guy than anything else. So that's kind of where my ear automatically goes. And so because of the riff and the music in 99 Problems, just so drawn to that tune, just so drawn to that album. I think it's my favorite album of his. Do you have a favorite Jay-Z album?
Oh man, that's tough. That is that's extremely tough because like I'm a big Jay fan. So there are it depends on the day you ask me because I'm a big fan of the Blueprint. That's a
Mhm.
great album. I think Blueprint 3 is an underrated Jay album. Um, oof. And I mean, Reasonable Doubt, his first album, is possibly his best album. Um, it depends on the day you ask me, man. He has so much good music. He has so many albums that I feel like it's not that much that you would skip in it. If you hold my foot to a fire, I probably would say Reasonable Doubt because I don't think there are any skips in that album.
Which is how you judge a great album. I mean, I do the same thing. If there's 10 songs on there and I go through four of them, that's kind of telling me, yeah, I like this album for a few tunes, but not the whole album. Um, I can't say he was the first rapper to make the album a thing. It seems to me like a lot of other forms of music, at certain times, depending on what rapper you're talking about, it's more about the hit rather than a chain of songs like a Sergeant Pepper feel where everything's interconnected. DMX, dude, I keep going back to X. I can't help it, but like, um, X's albums felt like a story from the beginning to the very end, and the Black Album feels like that to me too. Not that it's the only album he did that has that feel, but Black Album feels like he's telling a story from the beginning to the very end.
Yeah. Um, yeah. If you want a well, X is not on that song, but he's on that album. On Hard Knock Life, there is Reservoir Dogs, which is probably one of the greatest posse songs ever.
Right.
And it's so good. It's got like this it's kind of like this black exploitation sample sound to it. It has that same like wah wah bass to it. And man, I would never sit here and say that Reasonable Doubt is my favorite J album, but I can understand why it did so well commercially because there were so many hits on it. Other than Hard Knock Life, you had all of the you, you had you had so many records on there that like were either mainstays on video channels or were always on the radio.
Yeah, I mean, he was a hit maker. I mean, I say was. I don't. The guy's not dead here, man. But like, um, a prolific hit maker, really was. And um, again, I keep going back to 99 Problems. To me, it's the standout on this album, but we'll get there. Um, let's talk about this album. This album kicks off with Interlude, which is basically, I think, just a lot of sound bites, some background noise. It's sort of like an introduction. It has the feel to me of you're flipping through the TV and you're trying to land on the channel that you want to watch or the station you want to listen to on the radio. But that's how we kick this off. It's just a minute 21. Um, and here's something else before we get too deep into this is that he wanted a different producer for every song, which is very different. I don't know if how many times I've ever heard of that. I mean, that right away sets the tone for how different he wanted this album to be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in a lot of ways, this album, because it was a retirement album, was a celebration to his career up to that point. And so I feel like he worked with a lot of guys on this album that gave him his biggest hits. And you can just see like all of the different parts of his career and how some of these guys contributed.
Um, Absolutely, yeah. I was just reading over. See, Just Blaze was the producer on that, and also on the second track, December 4th, which features Jay's mom, which is very different. Uh, what do you think about December 4th? It kind of tells his life story. Well, not kind of. It totally does. Growing up as a kid, I mean, it's different if you've never heard it before. His mom is on the album. She's basically just telling stories. I mean, dude, this is a very different track.
Yeah, Sean Carter was born December 4th, weighing in at 10 pounds, 8 ounces. The
Yes.
last of my 4 children, the only one who didn't
One that
give me any
did.
pain.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I used to repeat that a lot. To this day, like, because that's really his birthday,
Hmm.
I say that December 4th is Jay-Z Day. And at one point, like, when I was working like a 9 to 5 job and I wasn't freelance, um, like I took December 4th off, and it was just a coincidence, and I just was like, "Yep, I have today off because it's Jay Z Day." um, so no, but this I feel like it was a great way to start the album. You know, if you want to cut to the end of your career, like you start where it all started. And I feel like it was very poignant to start with his mother and to tell the story of how his mother essentially kept him interested in rap and kept him interested in music so that he would stay out of trouble and to keep him close to her.
I mean, you could basically make the case for without her, he's not in the game to begin with.
Yeah, and there's a really cool full circle um story here in the sense that in this album, she's on the album telling this story, and then she's on his latest album telling the story and coming out as a um, as a lesbian woman. And so I just think the fact that she's been such a big part of his story as an artist, and he's been a big part of her life in different ways, is it's really cool to see. We just don't get a lot of that, especially from rappers. Again, because we don't get to see rappers age, we don't get to see them age as a family man.
Yeah, it's a different thing. You know, you mentioned that earlier about we didn't get to see Biggie do 8 albums. We didn't get to see what Tupac would look like, and I just imagine it. And Tupac is an old man being sort of the grandfather of his era, and these younger guys going to him for mentoring and that kind of thing. I mean, man, what how things would have changed. I mean, without going too far off course here, do you think Jay is he that sort of personality to younger rappers today? Do you think his phone blows up or he gets texted by guys who are maybe not saying, "Hey, give me some advice," or saying, "Hey, I look up to you. Do you have anything to throw my way?" Do you think he's that kind of like an approachable guy that he would be willing to talk to somebody like that?
Yeah, for sure. I think a certain generation absolutely looks up to him, and I don't think that he's ever shunned a lot of younger artists. I feel like he is, mentored from afar for some people. I mean, the way you listen to guys like Lupe Fiasco talk about him, I mean, even Drake and the Kanye's and some of the other guys, like I feel like he has embraced being an elder statesman.
Yeah. I like that term for him. I think that fits him actually. I mean, he's, 51's not dead, kids. So it's not like this guy's in a wheelchair or something. I think he's still got a lot to give. He's got a lot to offer. I mean, I don't think he's done by a long shot. Um, the next tune on the album is "What More Can I Say." I can't say that this is my favorite tune on the album. I don't dislike it. It's got that comeback, the "What More Can I Say." It feels like got the horns in it. It feels like I don't know, like a not a funk, but like a soul, like a throwback soul song. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like to me. And it's produced by the Buchanans on this album. And see, it was the first track from the Black Album to be heard by the public. The song includes additional vocals from Vincent Bostic. Was produced by the Buchanans. The intro, and I didn't realize this. The intro has a sampled monologue by Russell Crowe from the film Gladiator. I don't know how I missed that. Includes samples "Something for Nothing" by MFSB from their self-titled album released in 1973. So yeah, it's definitely got a throwback, and plus Jay quotes Big here, and I mean we'll get into that here in a minute because I'm curious to get your take on that. But what do you think about "What More Can I Say"?
Man, I remember when "What More Can I Say" dropped, and it was before the album dropped. Like you said, it was the first. It was the first song that came out to the public before the album, and it was around the time of him first acknowledging that this might be his last album. And I thought this song came in hard. I mean, just the production on it, the vocals on it, um, starting with "Are you not entertained? Are you not
Right.
entertained?" and then getting into it. And I don't care how many times I listen to it, and it gets all the way to the end where he's still rapping and the beat cuts off, and he gets into that I'm supposed to be number one on everybody's list. Let's see
Yep.
what happens when I longer exist. And you can hear him throw the headphones down in a booth and walk out. Chills every time I hear it.
Yeah, that doesn't feel like performance for the sake of performance. That feels like he's generally getting frustrated. That's good stuff, man. Um, I'm doing a little bit of reading here about the Big lyric. The rings and things you sing about, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. I mean, I mean, they worked together right at one point, but then it seemed like there was a falling out. Supposedly, there was accusations made that Jay was stealing lyrics from Biggie. Um, Dude, I don't know. Like, what do you make of all this? Like this little, can I call it a feud? Is that too big of a word for these guys or what?
I don't think there was ever a feud. I think that there was a mutual respect there.
Mhm.
The story there was uh, the DJ that like quote unquote discovered Jay was DJ Clark Kent,
Oh,
and DJ Clark Kent is the guy that brought Jay to Dame Dash, who helped him start Rockefeller Records. In the midst of him doing that, he introduced him to Big, and they had a session together, and that's how we got the J and Big record off of Reasonable Doubt. Um, why am I drawing a blank on the name of it? It's horrible of me if it's Brooklyn Finest. Sorry, Brooklyn Finest. They're both from Brooklyn, so um, and yeah, so that's how we got Brooklyn's Finest, and they supposedly got along famously after their recording. They had recorded a bunch of other stuff. Jay was on Big's second album. Um, I Love the Dough. He was on that record. Um, they had recorded other stuff. Big supposedly respected Jay so much that he always told people that he thought Jay was better than him. And that's because Big had to write. He had to get in there and he had to listen to the beat and live with it and write. Jay didn't really do that. He didn't really write. He would get in there and listen to it, and then he would just spit his bars, and then he would come back out and he'd have the verse. And like Big was just so amazed by that, he was like, "I'm not getting in there and letting that guy embarrass me." And so I think it was like any kind of rivalry they had. It was a friendly competition. Um, they were supposed to do a super group. Of course, it didn't happen
Right.
because Big passed. But I never thought there was a feud. I thought they were great friends. And every time you hear Jay quote Big lyrics, I think it's just him, exactly like he said in this song, I'm just bigging up my brother as my friend.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that supergroup concept in the past, and I think I posed to you on the DMX episode what would have happened if had Biggie not been killed, dude. I mean, I think that thing would have blown up. I think that would have been huge for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the name of the group was The Commission, I think. It
Mm.
was him, it was him, Big, and there was a female rapper that was going to be in it. I forgot who. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's one of those big what ifs in hip hop. If Biggie didn't pass and we got that album, I mean, they didn't make a bad song together.
Right, right. Um, yeah, like I said, I don't dislike this song at all. But if I told you it was my favorite on the album personally, I can't say that. I do like it though. Encore, which is going to automatically make me jump to the Gray album. So, kids, if you're not aware, Danger Mouse, back I think a year after the Black album was released, did the Gray album, which was basically mixing the Beatles' White album with Jay-Z's Black album to get the color gray. So you get the Gray album. I'm not a fan of Encore on this album. I love it, and it's my favorite tune on the Gray album because the way it's mixed, like I can't help it. I just uh,
Yeah,
so good.
it is really good, and I once it gets into that Savoy truffle mix towards the end,
Yes.
so good. There are so many versions of Encore. Like that version of Encore is good. Then the version of Encore off of Collision Course with that mashup is also really good. Um, the with the mashup of Numb from Linkin Park, man, so good. But Encore on this album, I feel like when you're talking about Kanye West productions, it's one of the best Kanye West productions in my opinion. Um, uh, just the sample he used for it, the vocals that are in there, um, the the mix and how he brings in the Hova chants in towards the middle of it that are just so it's so hard to listen to it and not get emotional because like I said this is supposed to be his last album and so
Mm.
when you get to the Hova chant and it's like at first it's just playing over the sample and then he starts rapping over it. It's so dope. Every time I listen to it, it's one of my favorite Jay-Z tracks. It's one of my favorite Kanye records that he's done with Jay.
He it's funny in the beginning of this when he's like, thank you, you're far too kind. It sounds like a lounge lizard in Vegas to me. You know what I mean? It has that feel of like he's in a piano bar and it's like 40 people in there and it's smoky and he's wearing one of
He-
those tuxes with like the red dinner jacket on, you know?
yeah, he does a Sinatra of rap really well. Um, that's
Yeah,
like his
yeah.
persona. Um, he has another song on Blueprint 3 that's just called Thank You and he does basically that for the entire record. It's him, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're far too kind. Thank the waiter for keeping ice cold.
That's good stuff, man. You mentioned the Lincoln Park deal, and now we're getting into the Gray album here a little bit. It was a year afterward, dude. Anybody could have took one look at Danger Mouse at the whole act and said, "Excuse me, no," and let's go to court. But this guy was so accepting of mashing up and working with other genres. And what do you think makes what makes him go that route? Why not? I mean, not that he's not protective of copyright here, kids. He is a creator, but at the same time, he's willing to do other things with other acts. What do you think? Where do you think that comes from for him?
uh, well, I mean, if I understand the Gray album, that year right after the Black album came out, he put the acapellas out for the Black album.
Right.
And so, you had a lot of people taking acapellas and, you know, putting them over beats and putting them over mixes. Because people, DJs were doing that anyway. They were just breaking down the records and doing that anyway. This kind of made it easy for them to just take the acapellas and put it over, their mixes. So when Danger Mouse came with Grey Album, it just was so revolutionary at the time because, you know, this is like untouchable. You're touching Beatles records and adding Jay, like it's almost sacrilege.
Right.
But it's just so genius. And as far as him working with Linkin Park, like I say all the time, I think Jay at that time was the link to getting a lot of rap listeners into rock. Um, like I liked Linkin Park at the time, but the fact that Jay is endorsing him makes them even cooler.
Yeah, I mean that they bridge the gap for different audiences to kind of mix together, and we saw the whole the whole rock and rap thing, Rage Against the Machine, back in the day with Aerosmith and Run DMC. We've seen it married before, but yeah, dude, I've always loved that idea, and I've told you before about putting something with a metal beat behind it, and it's funny because before we did this show today, I checked out some of the Glastonbury show that Jay did, and he's got that live band with him, and they're doing ACDC, and he's rapping 99 Problems over it. It's a work of art. I freaking love it. And he's so comfortable on stage, completely knows who he is. He's in his element, so relaxed. All those people. No, dude, I get it. He's 8 albums in at this point, but dude, come on. Like all those people, dude, there's if there's any butterflies, you don't see it. I mean, he's just right at home. I love that so much. Again, that he's willing to work with other styles of music. And honestly, dude, from a businessman's perspective, which we know that's what he is, it's smart business because you bring more eyes to your product. That's potentially more dollars in your pocket, not just because you love the music, but because again, you're supposed to be selling your product and making some cash. I think it's a smart move for him on more than one front.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying that he branched and brought a lot of hip hop listeners to rock world, but I would
Yeah.
say that he with Linkin Park, he crossed over to a lot of rock fans and got them interested in his music. And I think that's part of why the Black Album is a lot of people's favorite album because it's connected to these other projects that people also like. And it's been in a lot of 99 Problems has been in tons of movies and commercials and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, if you like Jay over rock, there is of course Death of Auto Tune, which I love, and there's a performance where he does it with John Mayer. It's so good. It's
Oh
it's
wow,
ridiculous.
John Mayer, very underrated guitarist. I mean, you can love or hate his sort of chick flick lyrics at times. I'll say it, but man, he's a very good guitarist, dude. Doesn't get near enough credit for how good he is. He's technically so good at it. So, Tom Clark 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you. Yeah, again, we're just 4 tracks in, but we're already 4 really good tunes, and they're only going to get better. Change Clothes is track number 5. This one's got a different feel, if only because Pharrell's on it, and it's produced by the Neptunes, which is Pharrell Williams, of course, and Chad Hugo. And dude, Pharrell's another guy for me. I can't call him an MC, but he's got that voice that like I mean, I'm thinking about uh, the animated songs that he's done, for the animated films he's done, and
Yeah.
which he's got a very, I don't know if marketable voice is the right term or not, but God, he's so good, dude. Just a very soulful voice. And what do you think about this tune, the way he mixes with Jay on this song?
Um, I would say when this first came out, I thought this was extremely corny. Like I thought this was like I thought like what is this? Like the video came out and they're like doing like this fashion show and all this other stuff, and I was like, this is all of the sugary, like mainstreamy, shiny suit stuff that Jay detractors don't like. And I was just like, this is all of that wrapped up into this one song with Pharrell's like poppy mainstream sound all on top of it. And the thing is, like, it grew on me, and it's actually one of those songs that I really like on the album now, just because I've heard it so many times. But if you ask me, out of all of the songs that Jay has done with Pharrell over his career, Change Clothes is probably like one of my least favorite. Like you've got all kinds like frontin' and like excuse me, miss. I mean, there's so many. I mean, it's even there's another Pharrell record on this album that's better than this Pharrell record.
Hmm.
um, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm dumping all over it, but it just seems like, again, if it's a celebration of his career, this is a magnification of him at his most um, braggadocious and overly overly excessive when it comes to money and wealth. And like, yeah, depending on when you listen to it, you might not be in the mood for that.
I get that, and I was gonna give you my take on it, but I think you took it away from me. The word corny kind of I'm not gonna sit here and say I listen to the song that much, and in fact, I kind of tend to skip this one. I not trying to throw hate at it. It's not one of my favorite tunes on this album. I can listen to it, and again, I do like Pharrell's delivery. I like his voice. I mean, "Happy" was the song I couldn't think of because once you get it in your head, it'll never get out. So,
Yeah, but
uh,
see that's kind of the magic of Pharrell and Jay-Z here, is that, like I said, this is just like a magnification of all of his records like this. And it's so catchy that you end up like listening to it, or later on like just like like singing the chorus to it because it's so catchy.
yeah, that's it exactly. It's like you find yourself tapping your foot to it, even if you're not trying to. So, yeah, I totally get that. The next tune it hits my ear much better, and it just it hits me in a certain way. And getting dude, if you don't turn this up, Jay advises you more than one time on this album, turn the music up. Well, guess what? You got to turn this up. It's "Dirt Off Your Shoulder," produced by Timbaland. Man, this is the tune. If of I mean, I love 99 Problems. I've already said that multiple times here, but like I love this tune. There's something about the hook, the bass line, dude. It checks all the boxes for me personally. I freaking love this song. This could be my favorite song on the record.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the standouts on the album. I mean, this is a Timbaland at his best. Great Timbaland beat. And this is like some of Jay's best bars are on this song. When he gets into it's like 52 cars went out. It's the way he flips 52 several times in
Yeah,
succession. There is just so dope.
it's good stuff. We'd play you samples, kids, but hey, I don't want to get sued. So, yeah, that's great stuff, man. I like I said, it's the way it hits my ears. And you're right, the way and there's patterns in this stuff too, man. For anybody that pays attention, and blues music has it too, but rap, the best MCs have such a way of taking a phrase or taking a word and repeating it 4 times in a row, but doing it to the point where it's effortless. Jay is so effortless when he does that. Like I'll give credit where credit's due, man. He makes it sound and look so easy. Maybe because for him it is, which is disgusting if you're someone who really is trying hard and you see a guy like him, he just like you said, just play the beat and I'll come up with something. Dude, I think people underestimate the natural raw ability and talent it takes to be able to even do something like that, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I definitely feel like some of the verses on here are some of the better verses on the album. Yeah, that Dirt Off Your Shoulders is another one where I felt like the version on Collision Course is also really really good.
Yeah, I mean, dude, there's nothing about this tune I don't like. I really dig it, and there's a connection here to our former president, Barack Obama. Supposedly, and it's what it says here, Obama used Jay Z's hand sealant to brush the dirt off his shoulders. When asked whether Obama was deliberately referencing the song, a campaign spokesman said he has some Jay Z on his iPod. So, yeah. Well, why not? I think connections like that make him appealing to a broader audience, make him cool. Not that he's not cool already, but like, dude, we passed this a long time ago. You could argue we've way past the point of hip hop guys becoming the norm in terms of overall hits. Like, not just for one genre. It's no longer just a hip hop genre. It's overall music. I mean, I don't know if you can use the word transcend with Jay Z because the whole genre has at this point, really. I mean, I'm sure there's some hip hop artists that I've never heard of. My kid seems to introduce me to a brand new one every day that I've legit never heard of. But it seems like most of the genre has just come into its own to the point where it's really overtaken the music industry. And depending on what side you're on, you may love or hate that. I don't know. Not for me to say. But I think Jay is a perfect example of this is how cool this can be. And especially when you're this talented. And he always seems to be embraced um, by, I don't know, I guess mainstream is what I'm looking for, by mainstream pop culture to be more embraced. I mean, some of his lyrics can be a little tough, a little hard, I guess, and depending on what he's rapping about at any given time. But there again, Phil, it's not exactly like it's gangster rap here. I mean, he's not hardcore. I mean, he uses a lot of slang and some language and whatnot, but that happens with a lot of artists in a lot of different genres of music, not just hip hop. But it seems like he's more widely accepted, maybe, of the artists of his time. You think?
Uh, yeah, I think there's so much that he says in this song that are unique to him and his experiences.
Yeah.
But I think anybody can relate to the idea of getting negative energy out of your life or getting that out of here, like getting the dirt off your shoulders. And I think that that's what makes him kind of genius is that he'll take something like dirt off your shoulders and um he'll say something that might have went over everybody's head because you don't know drugs. You're not a drug dealer. You've not experienced that. But you do understand just like music and you do understand, the relatability of what he's doing here. I mean, again, to go back to the 52 cars bar, when he goes the 52 cars went out. I'm through dealing. It's like just he does that several times on
Right.
this album where
Right.
it's a double entendre. It's like,
Hmm.
it's 52 cars. I'm done dealing like I'm dealing cars. And then it's basically, I'm done dealing drugs. Or to flip it another way, I'm done making music.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Because, like you said, what you said at the beginning of this episode, man, he drops a lot of hints. Like, "Hey, this is it. I'm done. Enjoy me while you can. Appreciate me while I'm here, because I'll be gone. You won't have me to crap on anymore. Whatever." I mean, that's yeah, yeah. Crazy that it didn't end there. Not that I wanted it to end, but yeah, this does sound like a farewell album. Especially the way he's got, like you said before, all the different producers doing all these tracks, man. Um, the next tune is "Threat." I love this track. And I thought for the longest time this was Steve Harvey on the voiceover, and it's Cedric the Entertainer, which I did not know. Because, dude, I swear to God, it sounds just like Steve Harvey, to me anyway. And uh, I love this. The what is it? He says, "I'll kill you and stuff you in the mattress like drug money," dude. I love that. Every time I hear it, I legit crack up, man. I really dig this track, man.
Yeah, I love it. This is yeah, there's so many, like all of the Cedric um bits in it are hilarious. And I just love that all of Jay's verses come in and it's not even like all of his verses are still smooth and calculated like you expect from Jay. And then you've got like this outlandish character around it. And he's not like budging. He's just still staying in Jay character. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's kind of just hanging around the song. just throwing all these threats at everybody. Yeah, that's good stuff. Produced by Ninth Wonder. You got to show some respect to Ninth Wonder, man, because he's from North Carolina. I'm just saying. So hey, I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there.
Uh,
He
it, yeah, and there's a bar in here. If you're a Face Off fan, the direct uh, bar that relates straight to Face Off because he makes a reference to Castor Troy.
Oh my God, how have I missed this? What's the line?
It's what is it? It's like castor oil, castor Troy. You change your
Okay,
face.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I did get that. For some reason, I blanked on it for a second. Yeah, I totally got that. Yeah. Again, he's so creative, man. So creative with the lyrics, dude. I love it so much. He's uh yeah, again, this is probably I can't say it's my favorite track on the whole album, but no, it's good. Um as is the next one, by the way. The next one produced by Eminem. He's working with everybody, kids, as we said before. Moment of Clarity. Now this sounds like an introspective, I'm taking a look at my career. I've got something to say. Uh, the world will hear my truth. I mean, dude, this is a pretty. It's the deepest song we've gotten so far. You could go all the way back to the beginning, and say that December 4th was pretty deep because it gives you his life story or growing up as a kid, tough childhood or whatever. But like, um, I would say that Moment of Clarity is probably the deepest track on this album to this point, maybe overall. What's your take on this song?
Um. Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's so funny when you listen to it. It sounds a lot like an Eminem record.
Yeah.
Um. It's certain things that I think I'm just so used to. I've listened to so many different versions of it. This is one where I feel like the Gray album version is kind of better. Um, that that flip of happiness is a warm gun that Danger Mouse does is just so it's just so dope. Um, yeah, I love the version of Moment of Clarity, and I don't know if it something about the production is it just sounds like an Eminem record. It just does.
It
Um,
does. Yeah. It's
and
dark. It's like the low tones, the dark. Yeah, I hear it.
it has the same moodiness of a Eminem record. And but like the verses on it are really good. Um, yeah, I definitely think it's some of his deepest lyrics here. I think it's his more it's what you would assume he would be doing introspectively as somebody that's supposedly wrapping up their music career.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I said, I really did this song. I didn't think about the fact that Eminem's the producer on this, and plus it does kind of sound like even his cadence, his register is a little bit lower when he goes through this instead of him being a little bit more high pitched that as he can be at times. I mean, it does kind of sound like Eminem could just kind of take over on this song and just do it himself. I mean, it does kind of have that feel to it for sure. I didn't really put that together till just now.
Yeah, it does. It has all the hallmarks of an Eminem song. It just it's hard to not hear it. But again, it has some of his better verses on it. It has the trademark. It skills so truth be told, I probably lyrically beat Talib Kweli. And then he
Yeah,
hits but I did 5 mil. I am arriving like common sense.
that's good stuff. Yeah, I dig this song. I really do. I think again it's a different tone, it's a different sound. Um, I like that he mixes it up on this album. Now, it not that this was the goal because I don't know if it was. I just don't want to put words in the guy's mouth here, but it kind of feels like that an effort was made to not have this song sound like the one that came before or the one that's kind of gonna come after it. Kind of make each tune sound a little bit different. So if that's the goal, he accomplished it with this song as well, no
Yeah,
doubt.
that there's several quotables from this song, and I completely forgot. As much as I kind of bagged on Change Clothes, it has the J lyric that I quote the most in like my regular life, and that's grand opening, grand closing. I say that all the time. Like if something doesn't work out, it's like,
Ah,
well, grand opening, grand closing.
that's good. All right, so if we're going to talk about lyrics that you quote from a rap song, I quote from 99 Problems. Would couldn't bust a grape in a fruit fight. Yeah, I can't help it. There's so many. This feels like a tough guy. This feels like a pro wrestling promo to me, where he, you know what I'm saying? Where like you could take the music away and he just speaks this in a promo. You'd be like, God, this is really good. This guy's good. Like I don't know. It's just the idea of I don't know. There's just something about that hits my ear that way. Produced by Rick Rubin. It's got that metal sound, that rock sound to it. I freaking love this video. Rick Rubin with the hair and the beard and the mink coat is freaking awesome. And he even gives him a shout out in the song. And I love this tune, man. I again, I don't know if it's my favorite. Maybe one or two my favorite on this whole album. I think this is as in your face as anything on this album. Maybe more in your face than anything on the Black Album is 99 Problems, where he's flat out telling you. And again, the whole concept of I've been racial profiled, I'm getting pulled over because I'm young and my black and my hat's hung low. I mean, it's not like this just happened, kids. It's been happening for a generation or two, maybe more. Well, not maybe. It has been happening forever, okay? But like sometimes you need to be reminded of it. And I think he does a phenomenal job in this song of making it something you can turn up and rock out to, but at the same time he's got a message and he's telling you about it. Dude, tell me what you think about 99 Problems.
Man, 99 Problems is easily one of the best songs on the album. Not just because it's just so great by itself. There's so many things he says here. I mean, the whole exchange when he's rapping the cop and then he's giving the responses back in rap, and it's all in timing and it's all perfectly in pitch and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Dope. The chorus is one of the best hooks on the album. Production is incredible. Um, I mean, it's like the perfect song on this album. But again, it's one of those where I've heard so many different versions of it. I would be remiss if I did not say again, great album, the Helter Skelter over this.
Yes.
It's genius. Every time I hear it, it's just like this is just amazing. And then again, when you hear a Collision chorus and it's like he's doing all of the verses for it, and then it gets into Chester, rest in peace, Chester Bennington, by the way, doing the vocals on there and doing all the vocals to One Step Closer to the Edge. Perfect.
And go back to Helter Skelter. I think it was either Pete Townsend or Roger Daltrey of the Who that made the comment they wrote the dirtiest rock song, and to which Paul responds, "Says really? Watch this. Hold my tea. Watch this."
Yeah,
And he
but
writes Helter Skelter. Man, the aggressiveness of that song and the grit of that guitar riff with JC on top of it sounds phenomenal.
yes, and that's why I'm like, it's such a perfect marriage. Like that is like the Grey Album at its best. Like that's such a perfect marriage of tone and intention of both of those songs put together.
And the title is taken from an Ice-T single, 99 Problems, from the album Home Invasion from 1993, which I actually didn't even know. Yeah, it's again, Phil, we got to reference the fact that yeah, he's flat out going there with his comments, and we'll see how smart you are when the canines come. And it's like in the end, the cop kind of, I don't want to say wins, but he's got him on the spot, and it's like, well, isn't this something? I'm sitting here going through this. I know my rights. You can't do that. You're gonna need a warrant for that.
Yeah.
But then in the end, cop's like, ah, it's all right. I got something for you. I got you. And I'm like, ah, come on. I almost want him to not. It almost feels like he wins in the song, and I don't want the cop to win in this song. You know what I mean?
Well, essentially he doesn't, because he's like, you're not searching my car because you need a warrant. it, it's like basically I'm smarter than your average rapper. You're not gonna get me by just saying
Right.
let me search your car. Like, nope, you're gonna have to give me some cause or a warrant or get out of here. So yeah, The other thing that's funny to me about listening to 99 Problems and this album as a whole, if you remember at the time, he and Beyonce were dating, but it was kind of like a industry-wide secret. They weren't out and married yet. This isn't like Family Guy Jay-Z that we have today. And so there's so many bits in this album where he's basically like, "Hey, I don't have a problem with women, guys. Just so you know, I'm dating the baddest chick that you can think of." And it's just like he's not saying it, but he's saying it. And so
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
look at the chorus and he's like, "He got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one." It's like it's right there. It's allusions to it in Change Clothes. There's
Yep.
allusions to it in Public Service Announcement. They're all over this album.
Got the hottest chick in the game wearing my ring, I think.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Yeah,
Yep.
and in the video, Beyonce happens to be wearing his chain.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
I got the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain.
My chain, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, well there you go. um yeah, I mean, dude, at some point the young, hungry, I got nothing to lose and I'll say what I want to speak my mind is great. Not that you need to censor yourself at any point, kids, but when you've got a significant other who's looking at you going, I don't know if I'm crazy about that word you keep using. And I don't know if that conversation happened, but I think maybe it's more from his perspective of, hey, I'm not going to be disrespectful to her. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's a new level of maturity we're getting from Jay on this album too.
Yeah. Yeah, he says a lot in this record. It's not just the stuff with the cop, the stuff where he's going over what fans expect for him and they still buy the records anyway. And, how he's used for placements on radio and, what magazines try to do and do with his interviews. I think he said a lot of really ballsy stuff on this song at the time, and it just all fits the tone of the record.
For sure. And I think the next tune very much fits the tone as well. Public service announcement. The only thing I don't like about this song is that it's not twice as long. I love, dude, I love this song. There's something about the feel of it, the way that it's I can't put it into words, but just the music and just the way it feels. There's a feel to it. Like immediately after I hear it, I immediately go right back and listen to it. I got to listen to it at least 3 times in a row for it to stretch enough for me. Dude, I love this song, man.
Yeah, I think Public Service Announcement is meant to be like a short interlude,
Yeah.
but it's like one of the best songs on the album. It's it's one of those songs. I don't care how many times I've heard it, like it always hits the same way. Every time I've seen him perform it live, it just always hits the same way. And I mean, I've been in arenas and he's performed it, and the entire arena is rapping the entire first verse.
That's cool.
All know the entire thing, and it's just I just don't care how many times you hear it. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove,
H
and
to
it
the
just goes
OV.
into the it's
Yeah.
just it's so good. It just even him doing like the this message is brought to you by Just Blaze and the good folks at Rockefeller Records.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of that Lounge Lizard flavor, just a touch, just a touch. Yeah, but it's just enough to introduce the song. And I think his voice is double tracked on this. It sounds like it is. Um, but yeah, it's God, it's such a good tune, man. Again, my only complaint is that it doesn't last long enough. I dig this song a lot. Uh, I can't say I'm in love with the next one, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm not a Madonna fan, and I can't hear this song without hearing "Justify My Love" in my head. Because I mean, I get where they're going for here, but "Justify My Thug" is not my favorite song on this album. I'll be honest with you. I'm not feeling it too awful much. What are your thoughts on it?
Justify My Thug is usually a skip for me. I'm not
Hmm.
a big fan of the Madonna flip. Um, I'm not even a big fan of the production on it. Um, yeah, it's probably my least favorite song on the album. Um, and there's some good stuff in the verses. There's some good bars here, but I just don't care for the production on it or that hook.
Yeah. Again, I've never been a Madonna fan. I'm not. I don't get it. I don't know if I'm supposed to get it. I'll guess I'm not. I'll guess I am. But, it is what it is. I've just never been a fan. Um, I will say that I like the Grey Album's version better than this version, if I'm being honest, if I had to pick one. So, but again, not too crazy about it. There's a lot of people with songwriting credit on this, man. DMC has got a songwriting credit on this, and so does Lenny Kravitz. So I guess a lot of that comes from what did they sample to get the sounds in the song itself.
Yeah, probably so.
So
Um,
yeah,
that would be my guess as to the song credentials on it. Um, yeah, not my favorite song.
produced by DJ Quick as well. So there you go. Yeah, it's a skip for me if I'm being straight. All right, so that takes us to track number 12. Two more to go after this one, kids. Lucifer. Dude, this has a Jamaican, um, I don't know, in my head, I picture like a bar in Louisiana at night, and it's like there's just ceiling fans and no AC, and everybody's really sweaty. And that it has that feel for me of like that old, like the classic old school, the devil's in a suit and he's got a straw hat on and he's, I'm thinking of Crossroads is what I'm thinking of, where it's like, he's smiling, but he's up to no good. That's kind of where the vibe that I get from this. If that's what he was going for, he hit it. Cause like, I like this song, man. I really dig this. What's your thoughts on Lucifer?
Yeah, it's one of those big Kanye records, and I really love the sample on this record.
Yeah.
Um, I love all of the verses on it. He does his allusions to religion a lot throughout his
Yeah.
career. He does a lot of religious iconography throughout his career, and for those people that think this is like blasphemy and sacrilege, like they're probably like, not this song, cut it off. But I think it's dope. I think there's a lot of stuff that he says in this song about just giving in to baser instincts on some things. And I mean, when he gets into that last verse, it's hard to not get emotional with him when he's talking about Baba Lab and how he died and how he felt a lot of guilt and anger based off of how he died.
Yeah, and it's again, it's another sort of deep track from this guy on this album. I mean, I really dig it, man. It's just got, again, Phil, it's got a different feel. I mean, it came three songs away from 99 Problems, which is again got this one feel to it, and then you flip all the way down to track 12, and it's Lucifer, and it's just, I don't know. It's we talk about pro wrestling as a variety show. This album kind of feels like a variety album. It's like there's kind of a little something here for every genre of music you can just about think of, is kind of, with the exception of country western, I guess, is kind of represented on this album, or at least something that you can kind of sink your teeth into. I mean,
Yeah, there's a lot of bluesy like soul sounds in this album, and I feel like Lucifer and like Encore and the very last song on the album all have the same kind of bluesy soul feel to it.
yeah, I'll go for that. I agree with that totally. Yeah, it's one of my favorite ones on the album. I really dig this. Again, maybe I dig it because it is so different. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, it's one of my favorites. Again, I hate to flip flop on you, dude, but I'm not crazy about Allure. I don't hate it, but it's not one of my favorites. I'll go back to this again to you and tell you that I like the Gray Album's version better, but I'm not a major fan of this tune. What's your take on Allure?
Allure is possibly my favorite song on the album.
Really?
It used to be my ringtone for a long time.
Oh wow.
Um, I love Pharrell's vocals on it. I love
Hmm.
the production on it. Um, the verses on it are so good. Um, to his whole talk about how he is, you know, addicted to the life of being being a drug dealer before he became a rapper, and then just the life and the fame and everything that comes with being a rapper, and saying that that's going to be the hardest thing to step away from.
Hmm.
I think that is why it's one of the most meaningful records on the album.
Well, it's a level of honesty, right? Like he opens up and tells you these things. He doesn't have to. Um, but yeah, it's the allure of breaking the law was always too much for me to ever ignore. I've got a thing for the big body Benzes that dulls my senses in love with the V-dub engine. Yeah, it's like you said, man, being able to let this stuff go. God, dude, I really don't. Do you think this album on some level was a ploy? Do you think he really was done? Do you think it was just a phase he was going through? I mean, where do you
Yeah,
think his head really was during this whole thing?
I think he considered it. It did, you know, at the time he took over as president of Def Jam,
Hmm.
and I think he considered it like, well, if I'm going to be an executive, I don't want to be an artist and an executive. I want to give my entire concentration to being an executive.
Yeah, I mean, which that other life, I guess, is something he's fully embraced now. It's funny how much time has passed since this album, dude. It'll blow your mind if you really start adding up the years. Crazy how much time has passed. That's interesting, man. That you dig that song so much. I mean, I don't dislike it, but again, it's not personally one of my favorites on here. Um, we end up with track 14 called "My First Song." Um, what's your take on this? I'll give you a little bit of the background here, kids. Let's see. Biggie talked about saying he tries to treat everything like it's his first project. Hence the name of the song, which Jay-Z is apparently calling his first song, even though it is the last song on what appears to be his last album, as an allusion to what Big said in the interview. Describes Jay growing up on the streets of New York. Despite being described as his first song, Jay also described the song as his last. To where at the end of the outro, Jay says, "I'm going somewhere nice where no mosquitoes at." You know, the song contains a sample of which I cannot pronounce. But yeah, it's again, man, like it's his curtain call. He's saying farewell. What's your take on this track?
I really like this bluesy sample on this. It's just the riff that they use for it is really cool. I like the pocket that he gets into and the flow that he picks for this song, where it's very up up tempo, and it's weird because it if you listen to his a lot of his earlier stuff, he raps really fast. He doesn't get into like the smooth um picking his changes in tempo and picking his changes of flow like he did later in his career. And so I think that he almost intentionally did like a version of his sped up flow on this record, to go with the theme of treating it like his first song. Um, yeah, I think that's cool. I think the fact he opened the song with the Biggie um, sound bite is cool. Um, I think everything that he gets into about his career and how he wants to finish up in the song is cool, and how he ends it with all his shout outs and everything. And it really feels like he's like standing on stage and he's like really like this is it. And he's saying all these shout outs to all these people and all of his, thank yous, and that's it.
Yeah, he references P Diddy, who at the time was still Puffy. Or Puff Daddy. I assume he is. Just stay busy, stay working. Puff told me like the key to this joint, the key to staying on top of things is treat everything like it's your first project. You know what I'm saying? Like it's your first day, like back when you was an intern. Like that's how you try to treat things. Like just stay hungry. Um, yeah, dude. If you go through lyrics on a Jay-Z song, you're gonna be scrolling for quite a while. The guy says so much in a short amount of time, which again is another feat in and of itself. He does shout out big in this tune, "Rest in Peace." Yeah, it really does sound like the last song of a big farewell concert. I mean, it's dude, if you didn't know the backstory of this album and you were asked at the end of it, tell me what you think the story of this is, you'd have to come away saying, was that the last thing he's going to do? Because it kind of felt like it. Like it really does have the feel of, and even before I knew the backstory of this was supposedly going to be his retirement album, after listening to the whole thing from end to end, I'm like, yeah, this kind of sounds like it. That's kind of sounds like that's it, man. He got the point across. Makes you wonder how soon during the production of this or when it got wrapped up did he decide that this wasn't over after all. Maybe it's the response it got because man, when this album dropped, it was massive. I mean, that'd be enough for anybody to change their mind, right?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I just think certain things changed for him afterwards. It's so funny because he would come in, he would do guest tracks, he would do like features and everything. In the meantime of him not making albums and not putting any singles out, and it was so funny because he kept putting out all these verses, and they were the best verse on the song. It's like, okay, just put out an album, man. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. Like, what do you? Yeah, don't mess around. There is something to be said for your favorites continuing to go. Like, it's so weird, man, because you don't. I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to see the bands that I grew up with get old, because then it makes me feel old as a result. But then also, you don't want to not hear them. And it's like you can listen to your favorite album 100 times every day, but like the possibility of getting something new from that band or something new from that singer is just too much to. It's just too tempting. You're like, oh, I got to hear it. I got to hear it. I mean, uh, that's the Black Album there for you kids. 14 tracks. I mean, we talked a little bit, Phil, when we started here today about where it is in terms of your own personal taste. Where do you think this falls in terms of his career as a whole? How do you think this album is viewed by his fans, by mainstream music in general? What's your take on that?
I think it's a watershed moment in his career. I think it's one of those moments that he had so many things that came from this. I mean, we talked this entire time about how that branched off into the Collision Course project, and how the Gray album became what it was based off of that, and how many other things came out of this for his career. I mean, the Fade to Black documentary, which is excellent, and it goes through his tour for him finishing up his career. And there's so many cool scenes of him recording the album and everything that went into making it. And there's just so much that came from this. Like, I feel like it ended up being his most open at that point as an artist.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, man. And I can't sit here and tell you I've listened to all of his catalog because I haven't. I haven't listened to all his albums. But I've listened to enough to kind of decide what I like and don't like, or what I prefer over one over the other. Black Album has a different feel for me personally. It feels like, not going back to the whole retirement thing, like a last dance kind of thing, but dude, it has a different feel. Like he's going for a different vibe, a different tone on this album. I mean, I don't know, it's more of a statement. He did lose Rap Album of the Year that year to Kanye West of all people. Like, it's funny how things work.
Yeah,
Um,
and I like College Dropout, but Black Album is definitely better than College Dropout.
I
I'm
agree with
sorry,
that.
it should have won, but the Grammys have gotten plenty of those wrong.
Oh, dude, I don't know how many times you can actually say they get it right consecutively. I don't know. Depends on who you ask, I suppose, and what your taste is. Um, like I said, I dig this album. To me, I think the way you described it's perfect watershed moment. Very, very apropos way to describe it. I mean, um, I don't know, man. Like I said before, here we are in 2021, mid part of the year, a little bit past mid part of the year as we record this. Do you think the fire's still there for him? Does he have a desire to get himself back out there? I mean, and if the answer is yes, does he still, going back to the first part of this episode, does he still have enough of an edge to really grab you by the short hairs and make you go, "Oh my god, I love this album"? What do you think he still has in him to do this, or does he?
uh, I, I think I like Jay at this point in his career, picking his moments and picking his spots, and picking projects that where he has something to say. The guy's still rapping at the top of his game. It almost seems like he's gotten better, which is weird. I
Right.
feel like in some ways he's gotten better. Like, you listen to his verse on "What's Free," like I think that's one of his best verses ever. And I think he made that like a few months before he turned 50. Um,
Wow.
and he's got other um, things he's done since Black Album, like Watch the Throne was great. I think that was another big part of his career. When everything is said and done, that's going to go down as one of the high points of his career. getting a tour with Beyonce and making a joint album, and 444 being what it was. Um, he still has projects to make. I just think he has been very selective about picking his spots, and I think that's the best spot for him right now.
Yeah, pick and choose what it is he wants to do because he doesn't have any pressure to go out and do anything. I mean, he's been so smart with his investments over the years, and we know the guy is a major businessman. Um, I don't know. It's like you said, he can still do good work. I don't think there's any question about that. I sometimes I wonder the farther away he gets from the Black Album, from those days. I mean, if I don't know, where there'll come a time where he's like, I think I'm done. I think I've said everything I wanted or needed to say. I mean, do we circle back, Phil, to the idea of this was just something he just wanted to do instead of this is all I have. I have to make this work. I mean, what do you think?
Uh, I don't necessarily think it's seen in that way. It's sort of like he still had stuff that he wanted to say as an artist, um, and it's just finding a way to do that. You don't necessarily have to be the cool guy in your 50s rapping and dressing like all of these younger guys, but it's still finding a way to make music that is unique to you and your experience.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, if he stopped now, I mean, 13 studio albums, 4 collaboration albums, 1 live album, 5 compilation albums, 1 soundtrack album, 2 extended plays, 115 singles, including 45 as a featured artist, 9 promotional singles, and 82 music videos. Sold more than 29,179,000 studio albums in the United States alone. I mean, that's a pretty darn good resume for anybody. I mean, it's yeah, wow, that's some big time stuff, man. What a career! If he called it a day, if he called it a career right now, I don't think anybody would blame him for it. But personally, I hope to hear him continue, and on some level, I think he's still got something to give. Um, at the end of the day, Phil, as always, we narrow it down. So if we can, let's try to put a pin in it. What's your last word on Jay-Z's Black Album?
Uh, I think it's gonna go down as one of the best albums of his career. Um, it may not have been a final statement like it was intended to be at the time, but I think it says a lot about who he is as a rapper and um, where his career will stand when he is finally finished with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's again, I go back to the idea of this album feels like it makes a statement. It has a different vibe, has a different tone. He's so creative on this thing. He's got help from a lot of different people to get the sound that he's looking for. I think it's just I think it's a great achievement. Not I mean, well, it's a great achievement for Jay-Z. It's a great achievement, period. I mean, to get what he's going for, and I don't think there's anything better as a creator to get your vision out, whether it's your writer on paper or on the net, or you're publishing a book, you're recording a song, or painting a picture, to get what's in your head out exactly the way you'd like to see it and have people receive it the way you want them to receive it. I don't think there's any better way to achieve your purpose as a creator. So if you're judged based on that, I would say job well done. And as we said before, hopefully this is not the last we hear from Hove. So we shall see, kids. And that is the Black Album. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.